ready. All right. All right, so is this good? All right, good. Do I need to wear my mask or can I take it off?
You can take it off.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Yes, I have a face. That's what I miss the most through all of this, is seeing faces. There's so much that's communicated through the rest of the face that's hidden that we miss. I'm praying for us to be in a place where we can not have those masks. So welcome all of you who are here and not in class somewhere today, or choosing to go out and enjoy a marginal day, but it's warm. Okay. So I want to introduce Susie DiPasquale, who will introduce our guest organist for the day.
So I first met Sarah in the fall of 1988. Is that better?
Sorry, we're trying to adjust the sound here downstairs.
Okay, I first met Sarah in the fall of 1989 or 88. I was singing in the Eastman Rochester chorus, and Sarah was a student at Eastman and was the accompanist there as part of her assistantship at Eastman. And I introduced myself to her and found out that she was an organist at Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Fairport. And at that time, I was between church jobs. My kids were very young, and so I said, well, I'll be happy to sub for you sometime if you need. And she did ask me to sub. And then I must have played a few times that year. And then in the fall of '89, she took over the chancel choir in addition and needed an accompanist to make it possible for her to direct. So she asked me if I would be the accompanist. And the rest is history. I mean, I just stayed. So I was here for 32 years, and in those 32 years, Sarah's had a very successful career in the Atlanta area, and I have not seen her since that time. And so it's been really nice to catch up with her, and she's good friends with Kathy Rodland, so we have stories between the two of them, and it's just been great to get to know her again. So thank you, Sarah.
All right, so I think that Sarah's going to direct the PowerPoint that she has, right? There we go.
Okay. I thought this was like an interview kind of thing, and I would just answer questions. Oh, so I'm supposed to talk about the pictures?
Introduce us to your...
Okay. Yeah. Well, Bob said, send as many pictures as you want, and so you guys are going to know everything about me. So, yes, this is my beautiful family. My husband, Billy, he is a golf course designer, which is kind of a fun business, and my son, Jonathan, who is a senior in high school. So, yeah. Oh, and my pet's also part of my family. So, yes, we have a black-headed Kaik, a parrot. He's going to turn 5 years old. They live like 40 years. So we've told Jonathan he has to, he's going to inherit this bird, and he's not that excited about it, but it's fine. So he makes us smile every day. He's hilarious. And then we have 2 rescue dogs, Wilma, and I did not pose them. I just found them that way in the same bed. With our new puppy, Cora, we've just had her about maybe 6 weeks or so. So, yeah, they're best friends now. Wilma's teaching her how to be a dog. Yeah, so Jonathan is a cellist. He is a very good cellist, and if people ask him why he chose the cello, basically he didn't. I chose it for him. When he was 4 years old, wanted to start him on a string instrument. I didn't have a chance. Where I grew up in a small town, there was no string program anywhere, which is why we did band and all of that. But and I didn't want to listen to the ee of the violin. So I remember here, it's all coming back to me now, accompanying Suzuki recitals. There was a music teacher. He also played, what's his name? Okay.
and his wife.
Yes, yes. They had a Suzuki studio, and he also played trumpet, right, or something. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I remember playing for some of those Suzuki recitals, and then anyway, yeah. So we did cello, and it's become his thing. And he recently auditioned for 8 different music schools, and he's starting to hear back from them. So we're deciding where to go to college. But this last week, he did get accepted at Eastman. So maybe we'll be coming back here a lot. Yeah. So I've been at Redeemer Lutheran Church in Midtown Atlanta for 26 years. It's a great church, right in the. It's right on Peachtree Street. Everybody's heard of Peachtree Street. Yeah. So you've got the outside and the inside of the church. They're very traditional looking. That's the organ I play. There was an Austin organ in there, and in '98 we started a project to see if we could, refurbish the organ, add to it, blah, 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 and we ended up getting some money and raising some more money, and we got a whole new organ in 2002. It's the Laterno Company in Quebec. It's 59 stops, very different from this organ. Yeah, but each beautiful and some wonderful sounds. So, yeah. And I've got those are some of the choirs I have. I do all the music at the church except the adult choir. So the children, there's 2 children's choirs and a youth choir. Well, the youth choir kind of died during the pandemic, so I have to resurrect that. Yeah, so we got some Christmas pictures there, and yep. Oh, and we have a Pipe Screams concert, so I dress up as Cruella de Org, have this wig, and that's one of my organ scholars a couple years ago sitting there with me, and then we let the kids come up and try out the organ afterwards. It's always a big hit of the year. And I run a summer music and arts camp, which we are again resurrecting because we didn't do it for 2 years. We have this beautiful big atrium, bigger than what you built here, which is gorgeous. But it's a place to do concerts and coffee hours and dinners and just anything. A great space. And then said, yeah, we love to travel. So it's a picture of us. Acadia, they're all labeled, okay. And in Ireland, and we were lucky before the pandemic. We actually were like, Jonathan's not going to be home much longer, so we want to, travel together as a family. And we actually did 2 international trips in 2019 it would have been. So we did Ireland for spring break and Italy for Thanksgiving break, and then the pandemic hit. So yeah. And so for the pandemic, our vacation was renting an RV for the first time and doing the Utah parks, which was just fabulous. Why did you accept our invitation?
No, this is that interview part.
Okay. Except it's written down. Okay. Well, I felt like it was an honor. I was like, oh, they remember me. And it would be fun it would just be fun. Why not? Work out a date that fits. I mean, this was, it was a long time ago, but actually coming back and remembering everything, it was only 2 years, but it was a very formative time, and it was in grad school, and you all are just such wonderful people. It was a supportive place, and it was just family, Yeah. Favorite memory? Well, the first thing that came up was the choir breakfasts at Friendly's. I don't know if y'all do that anymore. No. Friendly's is gone? Aww. Sad, yeah. But there were 2 services, and I don't remember the schedule, but the choir would switch around, like a certain Sunday a month would be the early service, and yeah, okay. So during, when we sang for the early service, we'd meet even earlier for breakfast, and I just thought it was fun. It was amazing, and I don't know that I made every single one, but that was fun. And there were actually quite a few choir parties. I think the choir liked to get together, yeah. And I remember teaching piano lessons and the kids and doing little recitals in here. So those were some great memories. There were lots of kids, and it was fun. Any questions? Oh. Okay. Did you play the track? Yes. It was here. Cindy had played it before I came. Yeah. It didn't have all the stops. When did you say those were added? 2001. Yeah. Yes.
How do you have this connection to Quebec? How did that come about?
Oh, so my first introduction to the Laterno Organ Company was Birmingham, Alabama. I was invited to play for the Regional American Guild of Organists Convention on it was a small organ, 2 manuals, and I just never heard of this company before, and it was a beautiful instrument. And so when we were deciding which organ companies to look at, that was just in the top 4, and we got to know them, and it's a great company. Yes.
How did you find out about Bethlehem? When you went to East,
Oh.
how did you find out?
So, yeah, it's funny. I actually, because I knew Kathy Rodland from St. Olaf, so she was like, you got to come out here early, 'cause she was a year ahead of me. Come out early, stay with me while we look for an apartment, and get a church job before all the other students come. So I did a lot of subbing that summer. I mean, there was never a Sunday I wasn't subbing somewhere. I remember playing at the Christian Zionist church and just like, I can't do this. Sorry, Christian Zionists, but I mean, it was an easy job, but it was like, no. I needed a church where I believed what they were, anyway. And I went on several different interviews. I was telling Susie this, and I just didn't get a job. And it was like, so this person got that job and whatever. And this job was still open, and I heard about it. I think it was September probably before I was hired. But I was like, you end up at the place you're supposed to be. Yeah, I don't remember how I heard about it, probably just through all the students and everything. But yeah, I ended up where I was supposed to be. Yes.
This isn't a question, it's just a comment. In reading over the bios of the people who have been part of the musical staff here through the years, I just think it's amazing the things that you all have done after you have left Bethlehem. The professional organizations, the competitions, Kathy and her sister doing the duo. And I just thank you so much for coming back and sharing. I was watching him play the posting, and his fingers were just flying up and down the keys, and it was just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, you guys have mentored a lot of good musicians, and yeah. I mean, it's not the kind of church where it makes you want to leave church music. Say, I'm never going to do this again. So you're very encouraging, and so yeah. And you've raised a lot of pastors too. I mean, that's special.
It's too bad you couldn't see the people play. They were playing as fast as
Yeah, where were the cameras? I don't even know.
There should be a mirror though for the pedals, so that people can.
Oh.
Because that's amazing. When we interviewed Ray Lynn, one of the ladies was not a musician on the interview committee, and she said, "You play with your feet?" Yes. So it was awesome. I could see from here, right under the piano. I could see her feet from where I was sitting.
I'm just curious, how many of you were here when Sarah was here?
Yep. Well, thank you. And it's nice that, I mean, obviously, congregations shift, and not everybody's going to spend their whole life in one congregation, but to be supportive, I mean, the people who never met me, and to have the pastors and everybody be so welcoming and still make me feel like I'm part of the history of this place, even though it was so brief. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it was part of my job. I mean, I did it here with the children's choirs. That was really my first paid conducting children's job. Because, you know, when you have a church music major, you sort of study it, and you have, like, I was an intern for a semester with a children's choir in town, but I didn't have my own choir till here. And then I've always done children's choirs since then, and sort of learned the little tricks of keeping them in line and all of that. And I think it's, I love working with children, and they're the ones that can help teach new hymns to the congregation. They're the ones that bring their parents to church. I've had to, this year, bringing them back after a year of online choir, which is not choir. I was like, I'm going to love these children and keep in touch with them, but it's not choir. But bringing them back, and like the first rehearsal, I said, okay, pick up your hymnal. And one of the kids said, what's a hymnal? You know, I mean, they just hadn't been to church in 2 years. And so you're starting from scratch. But I think it's very important to teach them the hymns and the liturgy and just all the responses. And we have kneelers in the church. And, you know, the first time we came back and sang for church, this is how you lower them quietly. I mean, just teaching them. I love doing that. Yeah. And then having been there so long, seeing them grown up, and, you know, I've played for some of their weddings, and they start having babies, and it's like, oh, it's my choir grandbaby. Yeah, that part of it's great. Yeah.
I don't want to put Sarah on the spot. She might remember, but collectively, can you come up with who were the children that would have been in the choir when you had?
I was here 88 to 90. Yeah, I really don't remember names. I mean, I'm sorry. But I was looking at the pictures. There was a good-sized group with the kids' choirs. Yeah.
I think my 3 children were in the choir at that point.
Yeah.
Did you do music with the children, Nancy Price and Besic? They did a lot of children's arranging.
Yeah, I know. No, I know the names. Yeah, you mean music anthems and stuff by them? Yeah, yeah, some. Yeah.
She's just joined the choir a couple of months ago.
Oh. Oh, they're here. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
And Don was a kid.
Oh, no, I didn't know they were here. And it's nice to hear that this is still a really good singing congregation. My goodness. Yeah, everybody's singing. Yeah. Yes?
I guess what's really important, what was so great about St. Olaf College?
Yeah, Jonathan got accepted there too. It's not high on his list, but even though it has a great music program. What's so great about St. Olaf? I don't know. It was just the place. Like when I remember the day I moved in to campus, I was like, this is home. I don't know. Just the size, the faculty, the people I met. I mean, everybody probably has a great college experience where, again, it's the formative years of your life and everything. But, you know, I was so I didn't know John Ferguson was there. I mean, I was going to go as a piano major, and I had already played organ, and I signed up for organ lessons, and she said, oh, I'm assigning you to John Ferguson. And I said, no, I want the other teacher. She said, no, I'm assigning you to John Ferguson. Again, the things that are just sort of meant to be that I didn't have anything to do with. And he ended up being a wonderful, wonderful mentor. We still stay in touch, and, yeah.
So I was saying this morning that it impresses me how much touch we have with St. Olaf's in kids that have gone there, people that are here that have graduated from it. And I saw, I read your bio, I see that, and then Hans tells me you were there at the same time. So did you know Hans and Amy when you were there? Oh.
No. I mean, even though it's a small school, especially if you're in the music department, in a music major, it gets pretty insular with that. But, yeah.
Were some of the same professors there for both of you?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
We sang with Ferguson.
Yep.
So Sarah's name rang a bell to me just because I was in the music building, so I wasn't a music major. But Sarah was a couple years ahead of me.
Y'all are making me feel old. Oh my gosh.
Take a look at the group. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. So, somebody, I can't remember if it was Bob or Phyllis or Pastor, I don't know, somebody came to me this morning and said, when Sarah got here this morning, she said, are the burners still here? And I went, why would she say that? And I was flattered. But then, in talking with Sarah, I mean, I remembered Sarah for sure. What I didn't remember is Sarah used to come to our house on Sunday evenings to do her laundry. And work with Kyle. Kyle was taking piano lessons, and I had totally forgotten that. And even knowing my kids then, my boys, she still chose to work with children. Okay, Bob, what do we got next? Oh, okay. Pastor Adler's. Okay. Wonderful. Sarah, when they brought they were raising funds for the organ, they sold pipes, right? And I think I heard my pipe this morning. Along with a whole lot other, I love those bass notes, especially when we're sitting in the choir right next to the organ.
To the saints who are gathered in Fairport, New York, to the saints who are gathered. Back in the late 50s and mid 60s, the seven of us, were privileged to be a part of Bethlehem Church for 8.5 years. We were very blessed by our time there. And I've done a few sermons in my day. I know what's involved in sermons, and this will be nothing like a sermon at all. You will not be required to get out your Bibles and look at the Gospel of John or anything like that. If there's anything that I would describe this would just be entitled Memories of an Old Guy, a very old guy. I remember the day I graduated from college and all the festivities and stuff. I remember pausing and thinking that I was all of 22 years old. And I can remember thinking how old I was way back then. In 2020, that was 50 years after I graduated from college. In 2021, it was 55 years after I graduated from Fairport High School. So the years have certainly flown by. I think probably the greatest memory of all would have been the music that happened there at Bethlehem Church. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. let's move us in first. Maybe it would be best to have introductions. I imagine there are a few people left at BLC that would remember the 7 of us. Let's put it this way. If you were there, you would remember us because we were a pretty rambunctious group. We really enjoyed being a part of BLC. But it was way back in 1958 that we moved in there. And by way of introduction, Dallas and Marge Adler met while they were students at Capital University. They got married in 1942, and over the years of their serving in churches, this was the old American Lutheran Church. They served 4 parishes, a couple in Michigan and a couple in New York. And during those times, Mom was always the organist and choir director. She was a keyboard major at Capital. And over the years, they gave birth to 5 boys. Carl was the oldest. Gary came after him. And then I was the 3rd born. I called myself the monkey in the middle. John came after me. And Dean was the youngest. And Mom, being a music major, it was very insistent that we do music together. And Dad played clarinet, Mom played saxophone, so we had a woodwind duo there. But when it came time for her boys to learn instruments, for some reason, I don't really know why, Mom insisted that it be brass instruments. And Carl was first, and he did the trombone. Gary did the trumpet. I played the horn. John was on the baritone horn, and Dean did trumpet. So we had our own brass quintet. We could have been the Canadian brass, except we were in the wrong country. No, not quite that good. But anyway, so in January, late January of 1958, Dad was serving a parish in the southern part of Michigan. And I don't know how he ever got to hear about a parish in New York State. It was a different district. It was so far away. But he managed to swing that, and we moved to Fairport in late January of 1958. The closer we got to Fairport, the more we realized that there was a lot of snow around. We couldn't believe all the snow. We got snow in Michigan, but nothing like that. And we come to find out that you had just had a major dump of snow, and it was that was nothing new for you guys. We finally got to Fairport, and I remember turning left onto Church Street, the very aptly named Church Street, at the Baptist church there in the corner. And in a little while, on the right-hand side of the road, we saw Bethlehem Lutheran Church, a very good-looking church that was about to become our home. And right next door, in the corner of Perrin Street and Church Street, was this humongous house. It was giant. And that was also known as the Parish Hall, which came to find out that was crowded. Every room in that place was full on Sunday mornings. And back then, Sunday school was all year. It went all summer too. So every Sunday was full. And for Vacation Bible School, the same thing. Every room was jammed. It was always full of kids. And then we continued. We turned right on Perrin Street and went a little ways, and we pulled into the driveway at 42 Perrin Street in this big house that was also known as the parsonage that we were very privileged to live in. It was very big. Parsonage we left in Michigan was kind of small, and if you can imagine, with 7 people, it was just a little bit crowded. We were very happy for 42 Parent Street. Gary jumped out of the car. He was so excited. And he went in the door. He was all the way up in the attic before we even got on the porch. He was just real happy. And it was such a lovely house. It had a full attic where half of the attic was a room that we had made into a bedroom. The other half of that attic was big enough. We put up a ping pong table. We played ping pong up there all the time. We had a lot of fun. The second floor had 4 big bedrooms and a bathroom. We were happy for those. And the first floor had a big kitchen with a place where we put the kitchen table. And that was good for us because as you can well imagine, our meals were pretty exciting. We had a lot of fun when we ate. There was also on the first floor a living room. There was a dining room. And there was a study in the front part of the house where Mom kept her piano. She taught piano lessons. She had a lot of students. And then Dad kept a desk in the study where he kept his stuff. So the parsonage at 42 Parent Street, we really had a lot of fun in that. Dad was installed very soon to be the pastor. It was a Sunday afternoon. I remember it very well, because as the service was winding down, it was getting towards the end, all of a sudden, the bell system across the street at the Methodist Church started playing a hymn. And I can remember thinking, well, that's God's way of blessing Dad at this church. I always liked listening to those bells, because I think at 4 o'clock and I think at 6 o'clock, they always played. It was like a hymn. And it was really neat to listen to that. There was a dog in the neighborhood once in a while started howling with the bells. Wasn't on the right key, but that was always fascinating too. Probably the most that I remember about BLC was all the music. And that's probably because Mom was the organist and the choir director. We had 3 choirs back then, a junior choir, an intermediate choir, and a senior choir. And all of the people that were in those groups were just very good. The way Mom directed those choirs was she sat at the organ bench, and she actually had her back to the groups. They were behind her, but she was able to play, and the groups were all able to follow her while she played. And it's a tribute to the caliber of the musicians in that church that they were able to do that, pull that off very well. The intermediate choir that I was in, I remember very well, we sang 4-part music, just like the senior choir. And we had a really good bass section. Chuck Luke sang that. My brother John was a bass. I think the day John was born, he sang bass. He was just always, he had a low voice. The tenor section that I was in, Gary Raymond and Dave Beeler were in that. And I was just kind of along for the ride because those 2 guys were in the varsity choir in high school. They were really good. The alto section, there was Cindy Brown and Debbie Good. I mean, really good. Soprano section had some good singers too. There was Sandy Schrader was in that section. Karen Vokes was a very good singer too. And Christine Zimmer, I remember her. It was a really good group of kids. We took up 3 pews on the right side of the church. The senior choir was around Mom in the choir loft itself. There was Dave Felker sang bass in that. He sounded like an opera singer. His wife, Mary Ann, was in the alto section. She was a really good singer. In the soprano section, there was Josephine Beeler, and she was Dave Beeler's mom. And the tenor section had a little shortage. My dad was actually a baritone, but he got hooked into singing tenor, but luckily he had a good falsetto. Good Friday services, I remember, they were either a full-length cantata which all three groups were part of, like, the crucifixion. If there wasn't that, a Good Friday service consisted of Bible readings, and each group did a couple numbers by themselves. And the way those services ended, you always had the three groups combined to do a number. Those were always fun to do. I remember another thing the church did every year during December, obviously, was we went caroling to shut-ins homes. All of the church was invited, but most of the people that came were in the choirs. And what we did, we went 6 or 7 homes, and we would stand outside, and Mom would say, how about, "O come all ye faithful," and she'd start us, and we'd sing a verse, and then "Hark the Herald Angel," and we'd sing a few things. We always ended with, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." And I can remember one of the junior choir kids, when we were done singing, would take this fruit basket from the church and, give it to the shut-in in the home. And then we left and went to the other places. And when we were done singing the shut-ins, we always went back to the church in the basement for hot chocolate and cookies and stuff like that. It was really fun. That was the music stuff. The other group at BLC that was very important to me was definitely Luther League. Back then, you couldn't take communion until you were confirmed, and you couldn't get confirmed until you took 2 years of catechism. But confirmation day was a big day. I mean, church was jammed. They had all these relatives, grandparents, and everybody came. Took a picture in front of the altar with the kids. Remember the class after mine, I think had maybe 20 kids. They couldn't take it in front of the altar. They were too big. They had to take their picture outside. But the week after confirmation was a big banquet of Luther League down in the basement, and the newly confirmed kids were invited to become a part of the group. Luther League had events every month, once a month, that were fun things. Like I remember going bowling. We went sledding on Brooks Hill. I remember going to a movie. But the big event all year was definitely the going down to Canandaigua. It'd spend the afternoon swimming in Canandaigua Lake, have a big picnic supper. After the supper, we walked over to what was then a Roseland amusement park, and we would spend our hard-earned money. Canandaigua event was very big. The end of the year in December, we always had a progressive dinner with Luther League, where we go to different kids' homes to eat. So I remember we'd start, we had an appetizer at, just say, Tom Good's house. And we walked in, and it wouldn't be, just something. Then we went to somebody else's house, like, Charlie Schmidt or something like that. And we had a salad, potato salad, macaroni salad. And the third house we went to had a main course of some kind. I don't know, hamburgers, hot dogs. It didn't really have to be big. But after that was all over, we went back to the church for dessert in the basement. And after the dessert, we had election of officers for the next year. The Luther League was a very important group. All of us were high school kids. We were best of friends. And when we saw each other in school, it was a really neat thing. There was also a group at BLC that was known as the Adult Fellowship. And it was like adults being together, like Luther League. They had things they did. Every once in a while, they would invite whole families, mom, dad, and all the kids. And they'd go somewhere for picnics, or we went on hikes. And, there was a lot of eating back in BLC. It was, I suppose that's the way it was. A lot of potlucks. I can remember those two. There were a lot of young married couples at Bethlehem back then. And, boatload of kids. It was such a fun place to be. I can remember the church picnics that happened every year. Sometime in the summer, they would rent some park somewhere. It wasn't even in Fairport. It was a pretty good drive away. And there was always a service in the morning that Mom got together a band for all the high school kids. I can remember the 3 Brown girls played in that group. Would have been Susie Brown on the clarinet. Cindy Brown played saxophone, and Darcy played trumpet. I remember that. There were 3 Jensen girls. Elise Jensen played a clarinet. Pam Jensen played flute, and Sandy didn't play an instrument, but she played piano. We needed that too. And then, of course, there were all the 5 Adler brass boys, and what else you call us? Jeff Robillard, I remember, played trumpet. Denny Sharp added a trombone. It was a pretty good sized group. And we played stuff for church. We played hymns. Mom had a bunch of music. And it just kind of, we made that work. We also played for stuff in the afternoon. There was a great big picnic. Everybody brought food and shared it. There was pop all over. They had ice cream. What a great day that was. The church picnics were always really neat. Like I said, Sunday school was all year, and Bible school went for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, from 9 in the morning till noon. And you would invite friends. I mean, it was everybody who was there for Sunday school and more. And I remember you had an opening service in the sanctuary, you dismissed to your class, you do some kind of a Bible study thing. There was always a recess where you went outside and played. And after that, you went back to your class and tried to do an arts and crafts, which I wasn't really very good. A lot of kids were really good at arts and crafts. That was not me. There was always a time, there were different times for different age groups to have music. Mom would teach new songs to the kids. And hey, that worked out real well. There was always a closing service. On the last Friday, 2 weeks long, there was a closing service Friday night, which everybody got together, and you basically gathered in the sanctuary, and you just kind of got up and sang your songs and did your Bible verses. And when that was done, there was punch and cookies downstairs, and everybody, you got to go to your classroom and take your arts and crafts home. It was 2 weeks of a lot of fun. Vacation Bible school. And there was one other thing that happened at BLC that was really kind of neat. There were midweek Lenten services that were multimedia presentations. Dad put in a lot of time on these. He had hundreds of slides. I'm not kidding. And he had a slide projector that showed them one at a time. And he would put together this narration, and he'd talk about the Bible and different things that happened during the Passion event. And he'd show slides, and a lot of the slides had the words for the hymns. And they say, okay, let's sing Old Rugged Cross or something. He'd show it, and Mom would play it on the organ. And those services were very well attended. Somewhere within the service, about halfway through, it showed a movie, like 10 to 12 minutes long. One series of movies was actually the story of the Passion Week that led to the crucifixion. But those services were really cool. And the neat thing about it is, it had to be dark because of the way things were projected. You couldn't have it any other way. But those were things that I remember so much about BLC and Fairport itself. I mean, the school system was so excellent. I mean, from top to bottom, all the years I played horn in the band with Mr. Woodworth. I mean, junior high and high school. I did the same in orchestra with Mr. Winterhalter. Never got to be in choir. There was a rule back then, if you were in band, you couldn't be in choir because they wanted you to be in study hall to get your homework done, so you wouldn't have to do it at home. And there's another thing I remember about my years in Fairport. From 6th grade to 12th grade, I had a paper out. Afternoon for the Rochester Times Union. I had 80 customers, 80 customers on, let me see, Filkins Street, Potter Place, and Dewey Avenue. All three of those, 80 customers, and the side streets connected. So it was pretty nice because it was very close to where we lived. And this was back in the day when the carrier had to collect. It was a whopping 40 cents a week for the paper. And there was a morning paper, the Democrat and Chronicle, but I didn't do that. Anyway, so many memories, and so long ago, and our days at Fairport. In 1966, in the spring, Dad was asked to consider to take a call in Akron, New York, which wasn't really too far away. I lobbied pretty hard with Dad, say, don't take that call. You don't want to go there. I mean, stay in Fairport. And I was very disappointed when he decided to take that call. I was a senior in high school in 66, and Dad's last day at BLC was also the day I graduated from high school. And so it was a very emotional day as it was. My grandparents on my mother's side came up to help us in that move. And Grandma said at lunch, she said she thought that church service was more like a funeral because so many people were crying because Dad was leaving. And it was a very emotional day. The very next day after I graduated from high school, the moving van showed up and we moved out. And it was, hey, we missed that. But, you can't go back. It's just the way it is. And all of the memories I have are still sharp. I remember so much, and I'm so thankful that I got to spend those years in Fairport. I call them my wonder years, and you got to be kind of old to know what that's all about, with all the Wonder Bread and stuff. I don't know if they make Wonder Bread anymore. But I sure want to wish you my best, and that it is my sincere hope and prayer that God will continue to bless your ministry there in Fairport as you strive to bring the kingdom into your neighborhood. Take care and stay safe.